All right, we got our Chapter 5 Quiz 1 review. Your quiz will be just like this. So, check it out. Which of the following points lies in the inverse of the graph? So please remember, inverse is when you take x and y and you switch it. So you're going to see points on a graph. Let's go ahead and write these 3 points out. So the original f of x, x, f of x, and y. So this point down here is -1, -2. This point is 0, 0. And this point is 1, 2. So to get the inverse, f little -1 inverse of x, we're going to take the x and the y, and we're going to flip it. So instead of -1, -2, -2, -1. 0, 0 flips to 0, 0. 1, 2 becomes 2, 1. Now they're asking which one of these points is on the inverse. So is -2, -1 one of these answer choices? No. What about 0, 0? No. What about 2, 1? Hey, 2, 1 is right here on the inverse table that we flipped. All right. Number 2, find the inverse of this function. Let's remember our 4 steps. First step, f of x becomes a y. Very important. Second step, switch x and y. Third step, solve for y. So I need to get rid of this loner. -3, -3, and the -3 goes after the x. So we have x minus 3 equals y. Now, there's no number in front of y. I know there's an implied 1, but since it's just y equals, we can write our final answer flipped around with the inverse notation. F inverse of x equals x minus 3. And that means the answer is going to be letter D. So there are 4 steps. F of x turns to y, switch x and y, solve for y, and then write it in inverse notation. Let's try it again. F of x is y. That's my first step. Second step, switch x and y. Okay. Third step, solve for this y. So I need to get rid of the loner first. The opposite of -5 is +5 on both sides. And +5 goes after that x. So we have x plus 5 equals 2y. Last step to get rid of that 2 that's being multiplied is to divide it by 2, and then you just make a big old fraction bar over here. Okay. And then the last step, write it as inverse notation. F inverse of x is equal to x plus 5 over 2, and that's going to give us letter A on this review. Okay, following those steps. Now please notice there's a back to this review and a back to the quiz tomorrow. So if we're going to identify the inverse of the table, we're going to take this and we're just going to flip it. Flip that table. All right, so 6, 7 will become 7, 6. 5, 0 will become 0, 5. -8, -10 will become -10, -8. Alright, so which one of these matches? 7, 6. I see that here, and that's it. 0, 5, -10, -8. B matches perfectly, flipping that table. Please remember, the inverse is when you switch x and y. So on a table, you just flip it over. That's it. Okay. Alright. Find the inverse of the graph below. So remember, the inverse is going to reflect across this diagonal line. So if I can pick some points here, okay, this f of x table is -1, -3, 0, 2, 1, 7. So my inverse table, I'm going to take that x and y, I'm going to flip it, flip the table. So -3, -1, 2, 0, 7, 1. All right, so let's find these answer choices and see which one of these lines has these 3 points. So -3, -1. -3, -1. Nope. -3, -1. That's good. -3, -1. Nope. -3, -1. Nope. Let's see if B has all the points. 2, 0. Yes, indeed. 7, 1. Yep. B does it. Okay. And you can see, if you were to plot those points on here, that it is reflecting across that diagonal line y equals x. So it has to be letter B, and that is your review. Your quiz will be just like this review. You're just seeing if you can flip x and y. The harder ones are these inverse functions, so just be careful that you follow those steps carefully.